We are back. Welcome, guys. It's been a while. Loaded has been off the scene for a number of days, has to be said. But look, we're rested, we've recuperated, and we are back. And we are back with a big double show tonight. So, what better way to start your weekend than have the ultimate preview of what seems to be, and we keep saying this week in, week out, it seems to be the biggest game of our season every week now. And it is a massive, massive game. However, we cannot continue this loaded mag away days without touching on the quickfire game that we had on Tuesday night. So, as always, I've got the main man, Chris, with me. How you doing, Chris?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, I'm very good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Really busy time at the moment for me personally, but other than that, all good. And look, as I said, we've got to touch on it. We've got to get into it a little bit. Newcastle United versus Norwich City, 1-1. It ended. I think everyone was hoping and praying and expecting a little bit that we were going to win the game. We looked dominant to begin with, and then it was an absolute disaster on 9 minutes, and we were just playing catch up ever since. But you've got to be able to praise the boys, in my opinion, for the work rate, the fight, the heart that they showed. But Chris, from your opinion, what do you take out of that game? What was your sort of thoughts on Tuesday night's match?
I mean, as you know, Pete, before the Norwich match, I was saying that, the Norwich and Burnley games are certainly the two games that I'm looking at and thinking, we need 6 points. But I would be content with 4. I'd have lived with 4. Now, obviously, we've got the draw, and I'm sorry to Dan, but we're going to need them 3 points at the weekends. If we get the 3 points at the weekend, I believe, does that put us on 10? And I think we can work with that. And who knows? We could pick up some points in that horrible December fixture list that we've got. We all know. I think is it Leicester away, Man U at home, Man City at home, Everton away, and Liverpool away. So there's some really, really difficult fixtures. I've got the order wrong there, but there's some really difficult fixtures coming up. But I know most fans will say that we're not going to get any points, but I would be surprised if we lost all of those games. And the one thing I will take from the performance against Norwich was the fight. Like you say, Pete, there was a lot of fight from those 10 players out there. Great to see Dubravka back in goal. People are blaming him for the goal. I think that's a little bit harsh. Don't get me wrong, he probably could have done better with the initial paddy that he did. But at the end of the day, it was a really good finish from Pukki. If anything, I'd probably say that, I would blame the defence a little bit more, or maybe the midfield, because he was allowed to just roam in the box. And great finish, I'm not taking it away from him, but he had plenty of time to set himself, get himself sorted, get his position right, and then just bury it. I would have liked to have seen him be under a little bit more pressure. We saw some really good performances. Again, Joe Linton, I thought he had a good game. I thought Jamal Lewis was outstanding, considering I think you tweeted it, Pete, saying he'd been out for nearly a year. I thought that was a great performance. We didn't see as much going forward from him, but defensively, I thought he put in some great, last ditch tackles. He looked organised. I thought he played really well. John Joe Shelby, again, surprising people. I thought he had a solid performance. And most importantly for me, Federico Fernandez, when he came on, obviously Ryan Fraser had to come off pretty early as a tactical substitution, because obviously we lost Kevin Clark. And I thought Federico Fernandez, he looked like he hadn't missed a minute. I thought he commanded his box well, was organising people, screaming, shouting, and I thought he put in a really solid performance. So yeah, I think we've said this before, Pete, but for me, we've got to keep that back 4 as it is for Burnley at the weekend. And I just hope that we see the same fight and we take that performance level that we had from Burnley for those 81 minutes when we had 10 men and take that into the Burnley game. And what I'm interested to hear from our guest, Dan, is that I'd be interested to hear how Burnley line up, because from memory, or from what I know, Burnley tend to go 4-4-2. So it'll be interesting if we go man for man, we also go 4-4-2 or something very similar, and it'll be interesting to see, you know, Dan's thoughts on that.
100%. And we'll definitely get into that without a doubt. But I think you made some great points. You know, you touched on Jamal Lewis. Like you said, he's not played for so long. Come in and really commanded. What I really liked in the first half, there was a couple of really crunching 50-50 passes that he didn't pull out of. He got right stuck in there, and I'll be honest, I was wincing a little bit to think, you know, oh, I hope he don't get injured or I hope he doesn't pull out, but he did. He got stuck in, and he really just, you know, I don't think he did loads going forward, but I really think he focused on his defensive line, his shape, how he defended deep. You know, he got the board, he didn't mess around, he just whipped it down that line into space for the likes of Wilson or Joe Linton or Maxi to run onto. He just kept it really simple, but he used his athleticism. He got up and down the pitch. He's got great energy. He's a former cross-country runner, and it really showed in his performance last night. So definitely himself, Joe Linton, John Joe Shelby again having another very, very good performance. And just so unfortunate. I mean, the Kieran Clark situation. I'm still seething, if I'm honest with you. You know, some people have come out this week and said, you know, we should get behind him, blah 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 blah. I'm not there yet.
You know what, Pete? I don't even think it's about that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want him getting personal abuse and everything. I'm not for 1 minute am I suggesting that. But people getting on his back, I think it's justifiable. I really do. Because for an experienced international centre back to go and do that, he's let his teammates down, he's let himself down, and he's let the manager down. So for people to get on his back over it, it wasn't even like, you know, like a 50-50 thing, and he went in and his studs were too high or something like that. It's not even like that. He's made that decision. And don't get me wrong, I'm not for 1 minute suggesting he's made that decision, you know, for his own benefit, or that, you know, he was trying to be like a particular way about it. All I'm purely saying is from a young age, he should have been taught, if that scenario happens, you let the man go. Just let him go. Different if it was the 85th minute and we were 1-0 up and, you know, he's took one for the team. That's fine. Do that, but not after 8 minutes. You don't do that when someone's in on goal, because the more I watch the replays, I'm thinking, would Pukki have scored? And even if he did score, Pete, what's to say in 20 minutes later we didn't equalise? Game on.
We were dominating the game. You're absolutely right, Chris. We were dominating the game at that point. We looked like the only team that were going to score. We had most of the possession. I think we had between 52-55% possession at that point in time, where we were, and that's not like us. So that says that we had a fair bit of the ball, that we were looking to go forward. You know, we were creating chances, and we looked the better team by far. And you could only think that, you know, even if they'd have gone through and scored, that we would have pulled the game back and we'd have kept pressing and kept probing and nicked the goal. So, you know, you're absolutely right. But we move on. We move on, as we've done many a time this season and before, to a huge game again. Another home game. Burnley come to town, and look, there's no better way to preview a game against the opposition without having the opposition fans on the show. So, absolute pleasure to welcome in Dan from Moorhouse TV. How you doing, Dan?
I'm all right. I won't lie. I am. Put it one way. The back of me is going 20p, 50p tomorrow for 90 minutes. I'll tell you that. I will tell you that.
I like to hear that, Sam.
Well, if yours is doing that, then ours is like going like that. Because we are desperate. Absolutely. We are desperate for a win. But you know what? Before we get into your sort of overall season, like why will you guys be nervous? Because obviously you're ahead of us in the table. Yes, you're still in the bottom three, but is there any reason for you guys other than that to be kind of nervous tomorrow? You know, is there anything at the moment with your team that's maybe causing you a little bit of concern?
I think at the moment, going off what you just said towards the back end there, you know, the in regards to the team and the bit of concerns, away from home is where we've been playing a lot better. Don't get me wrong, we really have. But and Dash has come out and said we need to turn those draws that we've had recently into wins. And you know, it's so easy to say. It's not as easy to do, obviously, as we all know. But this is one of those games that's a potential banana skin. And I know you said later on about stats and things like that. And stats are going to be, they're there to be broken at the end of the day. Yeah. Looking at it, okay, we've already been to St James's Park once this season in the Cup. It went to penalties. Obviously, we took the upper hand in that. Can we take that as a sense of optimism? Potentially. But in a cup, you've got a completely different side. The thing that worries me the most is that the performance you put in against Norwich was a very spirited performance. Going off what you guys said, if anything, I felt you were stronger with 10 men.
Yeah.
I thought you was a lot stronger with 10 men. I think I can understand going off what you said, Chris, Fleming, Kieran Clark sending off. Going back to that, I can understand why you said that it's justifiable for the crap that he's getting. It is. For such a silly tackle after 8 minutes. How he's not come out and said, you know what, I hold my hands up, I'm sorry. But he's not. He's literally got every other player basically going, well, he didn't mean it. He is sorry. You tell us that then. You tell us that. If anything, though, going into this weekend, Kieran Clark being out makes you stronger. I will say that. That back four is, having Federico back in there is going to be solid. Even if Flaming Jamal Lewis stays in as well, he's got pace, he's got the ability. So it does worry me, because as much as people say Newcastle's defence at the minute has been quite shoddy, and we've been pretty decent away from home, this has got one of those games against an Eddie Howe side where he's quite forward thinking. This could be one of those where, if you remember the 3-3 fixture on New Year's Day a couple of seasons back, this has got the remakings of all that, to be fair. Two sides just going at it, not giving a care in the world about the defences, and just trying to go all out to win the game. So I am crapping myself. I will totally be honest with you. I can't hold it in. I can't hold it in and say, nah, easy pickings, because it's not. It's really not. It's an intimidating place to go to, is St James's Park to begin with. I mean, even as a fan, prior to the game, you're blowing out your arse, and by the time you get to the top of the stairs in the away end, you're blowing out your arse. So there's no winning, mate. There's no winning.
No, you're absolutely right. It's very, very strategic that we have you up in the gods for that. They get you so tired that you don't want to chant until the 40th minute, and then it's all right. And hopefully by then we're already winning and the game's done. So very, very strategic planning. But look, Dan, obviously, looking forward to the game. You've touched a little bit on Burnley there. I just want to get your thoughts about Burnley's season. How has your season gone so far, in your opinion, and opinion of the fans in and around you? Who have been sort of your standout players? And interestingly, who are your players that maybe haven't performed at the level that you maybe would have expected to this season?
Yeah, good questions. First of all, our season's been as per usual. We always start extremely poorly. It's around, unfortunately, it is around this time where we start putting a run of results together, and it saves us by the skin of our teeth come the end of the season. So it sort of has just happened as it normally does. I mean, to be fair, last season for me was a killer, with COVID and not having fans in stadiums, especially when you're a team like Burnley where, the fans are your 12th man. Even when we concede, we're not booing. We're not Everton, for Christ's sake. We're not booing you every 2 minutes. We're literally trying to clap, get behind the lads, and try and G them up, get the game going again. And it's worked in recent years. And if anything, last year should have taught us that this is the kick up the backside that we need for this year. As I've stated as well, last season there were 3 worse teams off than Burnley, in my opinion. This season we're one of those 3, and that's the scary thought process, in my opinion. There's been points dropped against teams where we should have really got results. I mean, I look at the first game of the season against Brighton. We've gone 1-0 up. We've ended up losing the game 2-1. We've gone 1-0 up against Everton. You know, we lost the game 2-1, 3-1 there. Whatever it ended up, I can't remember. It was mad 6 minutes after that goal. I just remember walking away from Goodison Park, just absolutely fuming.
Was that the Andros Townsend cracker?
Yeah.
I remember that now.
Yeah, I remember watching that.
Yeah, it was just a mad 6 minutes, and it's strange to say that the worst thing Burnley could have done was put the ball in the back of the net, because Everton literally had fireworks rocket, like, you know, shoved firmly up the rectum, and literally just bang, away they went. But we've seen as well, another thing that gets me this season is I've started to see a couple of things that I think Dash is getting wrong, and like-for-like substitutions is one of them. I don't like the fact of this like-for-like substitution because, as I've already stated, the Everton game, the Brighton game, probably a few games in between that, where teams have decided to tweak the tactics around the 60th minute mark. They've decided to like sort of throw an extra body in the midfield, and it's just opened us up and it's killed us off. Now, I'm all for like subs if you're playing all right, if things are, you know, if the game's going okay, the game's flowing nicely. But sometimes you've got to tweak the tactic, and Dash is so stubborn in that sense. So to see him maybe drop a striker for another midfielder, maybe see him, you know, progress tactically would be nice. As much as what he's done for us has worked, sometimes you do need to just change it a little bit. I mean, he has tweaked it a little bit recently. We have dropped from a 4-4-2 to maybe a 4-4-1-1, which is, you know, dangerous, very dangerous. But yeah, it's given us more chance to play more expansive, because we're known as a team that plays long ball football. You know, everyone says it. It's a case of the defence get the ball, hoof it forward, hope that two big goals up front in Barnes and Wood will get on the end of it and do something with it. But now we've got a bit of a creative spark out wide, and, you know, not just in Cornet but in McNeil, and they're going to be both pivotal. Obviously, I'm sure we'll probably talk about Cornet a bit later on and the way he's been as a key player. I think he's took a lot of the workload off McNeil as well, because people were saying if you nullify McNeil's game, you're nullifying Burnley, so it gives him a bit more freedom. But yeah, our key players, if you look at it, that have performed, Cornet, to come in and hit the ground running as he has been phenomenal. Absolutely outstanding. 5 goals this season, and all 5 goals are goal of the season contenders of his own, from a club perspective. As I say, to have somebody like that that's left Lyon in the Champions League to come to some pub team that plays on a cul-de-sac, right, pretty much, you know, it's absolute madness. It's madness. And you can see how much difference he makes, though, because we're so used to having 10 other stiff, robotic idiots play a ball up top to Chris Wood and hope for the best. But now we've got a player that's literally running into the channels, getting into space, getting behind the defence. And all of a sudden, we're all like, whoa, Burnley can play football. What's all this about? So it's nice to see, don't get me wrong, of course it is. It's a breath of fresh air, and it does change our game every now and again. Matt Lawton's been another standout player for me. Right back, to be honest, when we lost Jeff Hendrick, you know, really sorry about that. Really, really sorry that he ended up with you guys. He should be, you know, that guy's Sunday League. Honestly, he's awful. But we honestly thought,
was it really that bad for you guys? Let's have that Hendrick conversation now. You know, obviously he's come to us on a free transfer, and we've gone, okay, you know, free transfer. That deal seemed to have lined up in the January 2020. It seemed to be a deal that we'd already lined up well in advance. I remember seeing those reports quite early on. And so he's come to us and scored on the first on his debut against West Ham. We think, we're all looking at each other like, great deal here. Like, he scored a good goal. I haven't seen anything since. What's happening?
That's what you get.
How bad was
that? Is what you get
at Burnley.
To be fair, we bought him as a central midfielder. You know, that's where he was playing predominantly at Derby. We brought him in, and he looked lost. He just looked lost in the midfield. And the thing is with Burnley, they try to sometimes play out of position. We've seen over the years where Burnley have played strikers out on the left. Jay Rodriguez has played on the left wing. Barnes has sometimes been pushed to left wing. We had it prior to that with players like Kyle Lafferty and Martin Patterson. If you're going back to 2009, 2007 days, so we started to push him out to the right wing, and he had 2 or 3 good games, and then he just completely drop off. It reminds me basically of like an Irish Patrice Evra. He sort of just would try to get forward, and then he'd just look back and go, yeah, I'm not running that far. I'm not going that far back. If he can get it forward again, I'm here. But if not, not a chance. It was infuriating at times. I do think he was used as a bit of a scapegoat by the fans. I think he was harshly treated by the fans. He did have good games, don't get me wrong, but no matter what he did, whether it was good or whether it was bad, he was literally, booed for touching the ball. Pretty much, it was awful. Everybody, it got to a point though. We honestly thought Matt Lawton was going to become that new scapegoat when he left, and Matt Lawton's been really solid for us at right back. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because obviously when you lose him, and at the time, obviously with COVID, we had a lot of players out of contract as well. There was a lot of crap going on, at boardroom level with the change of ownership and the chairman prior being a target and wanted change from a tenner and all that stuff. So in terms of transfers, so you don't know what you're going to get. But yeah, I mean, as you've hit the nail on the head, he's gone to Newcastle, scored in his debut, and done absolutely nothing since.
Yeah, that's definitely the way it's been, and it's been incredibly frustrating for us as Newcastle fans because. And I think, Chris, you'll probably agree with this. I'll get your opinion on this as well. Is that, that is the one position where we've really needed someone in there of quality, and we brought, we did invest in that area, and we got him for free, Hendricks for free, and then he's just, he just give us nothing. What are your opinions on Hendrick?
Yeah, no, I completely agree, Pete. It's funny, I remember the match day live doing the West Ham game, and I remember being on the show, and obviously, like we scored and we were all made up, and I was saying after the game, listen, everyone needs to calm down over Hendrick. Like I've watched Hendrick play, and like for me, I think that's out of the ordinary what he's just done. Not taking it away from him. Good game, well done, lad. But if he keeps doing it, I'll get on board. But I'm not so sure. And then obviously the real Jeff Hendrick has surfaced, and he's disappeared now, hasn't he? And obviously,
this is the thing, though, Chris. The thing is, as well, he left Burnley and he came out in his interview and said one of the reasons I left is because they was too late in trying to sort my contract out, and they wasn't offering the terms that hopefully we could have agreed on. And secondly, I was being played out of position. I don't feel like I can utilise or be be quite strong in a game from the right wing. So I went to a club.
Play right wing?
Yeah, he naturally he's a central midfielder, and then he says, "I'm fed up of playing on the wing. I want to play in my natural position where I feel I'm stronger." That guy's not strong at all. Honestly, not Fleming. Gale Force Winds would send him to Dubai. Honestly, that's how he's literally got nothing. He's like paper, is that lad?
Yeah. We've not been impressed by him at all. I mean, the problem for us has been, Dan, that he's just not effective enough, and it goes back to something that I've said about Hayden, where and by the way, I do rate Hayden more than Hendrick, but he's not good at enough for me. Like he's just kind of a body. And we need more than that, especially in the central midfield in the Premier League now. You need to be good at something. And I just feel with Hendrick, he's just average at probably everything. He's probably someone who you'd bring on or play in a cup game if you were desperate just to put a body on a pitch. Like, if you were playing like a 4th division team or something, throw Hendrick in because he'll probably stand out. But in a Premier League game, God, I wouldn't even want him on the bench, if I'm honest. I really wouldn't.
No. That's the only thing he's good at, keeping it warm. That's it.
Yeah. I would have to agree with that, and I think every other Newcastle fan that you spoke to would probably say exactly the same. I've got to be honest with you, Dan. But look, there's one more other player that I want to talk about, and Martin said it right here. How much for Tarkowski? How much are you willing to let him go for? Now, interestingly, before we get on to Tarkowski, I looked at your lineup against Wolves. I think it was at Wolves, the 0-0 draw, and he wasn't playing. Is there an issue at the moment, was he suspended? What?
Yeah, suspended. He'd received 5 yellow cards, so he was suspended. Obviously, would have served his suspension in the Spurs game that got called off on the Sunday, but obviously that didn't go ahead, so his suspension rolled over to Wednesday's game. Again, obviously he was suspended. Ashley Westwood was suspended, so I think they'll be back involved unless Tarkowski says, "Oh no, I don't want to play," because he wants to try and entice a move. Because I'm not being funny, he did it with Bratton when we came sniffing, and if he wants to move to you, he will try his best. He will say he's ill. He will say he's had a dodgy kebab or something like that. He will try and get out of it. But
good, because Dan, we've been heavily linked with him. We've been heavily linked with him in January. It's very, very clear from his Newcastle fans that we need a centre back. Now he's an England international. He was linked a couple of years ago for a 40-odd million pound move. I think you guys did you turn down 35 million for him?
Yeah.
So, you turned out big money from Leicester City, who were really seriously after him. How good is he? And, how, okay, 3 questions here. How good is he? How good has he been this season? And do you think he will still be with you come the end of January?
First question in regards to how good has he been? Yeah, he's been all right. I think it's just one of those, obviously, because we've played a bit more football this season instead of more long ball. There's been a couple of cracks in the defence because we've not had the players sort of sitting back trying to do all that easy defensive work as we've tried to see over the years. It's sort of become a bit of a challenge. He's a top defender. He really, really is. I can't stress enough what he did since coming in from Brentford, and cementing his place alongside Ben Mee was brilliant. If you wanted him in January, I think 7 million gets him.
7 million?
Yes, 7 million, because he's out of contract in the summer. So okay. I think 7 million is an absolute steal for someone like Tarkowski. I think he's a solid player. It depends what Newcastle want to do. Do they want to delve into the loan market for a defender, get some sort of pre-contractual agreement in with Tarky when his contract's up? Then it may just be one of those. But I think,
Dan. Sorry, I was going to say it's interesting what you've said there, because I was thinking about this the other day, and obviously, as you know, relegation's a real threat. And when we're looking for players in the January window, for me, they've got to have Premier League experience, which he ticks the box. It's also got to be a player who would stay in the Championship. And I do think if we signed him on a 3-4 year deal on decent wages, I think he'd stay in the Championship, knowing that there's a strong possibility he'd come straight back up, and then he'd be part of that team. To add on to one of Pete's questions as well, just a little added extra, just to throw on at the end. We're in desperate need of leaders on the pitch, desperately. Would you class him as a leader, and is he captain material? I know Ben Mee's your captain, and Pete, it is right, isn't it? Does Tarkowski step in as vice? I think that's the case. So just to add on to the Pete's questions, would he tick that box as well, Dan?
Yeah, he would. He is quite vocal, to be fair, even when he's not wearing the armband. And I think that's what Dash likes, the fact that the players are constantly in conversation with everybody. You see it every match day. You can hear it. They're all talking to each other. I think it's a bit worrying that you can hear the players, because it just goes to Turf Moor's atmosphere, to be honest with you. But yeah, he is pretty vocal, and that's what you want. You want someone who's going to be like, listen, come on, you wouldn't expect this crap in the army, would you? You're not a spare part. Get yourself involved. Get your head in the game. So that's what we need. I think the only problem that Newcastle are going to have in this January window is that people are going to try and bulk up the prices, even for the crap players that are just going to sort of come in and sit on the bench. They're just literally going to go, nah, we know you've got coin. And it's going to be like Leicester and Man United with Maguire all over again.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to try and rinse the crap out of it. So if Tarkowski does leave us, I hope he does go to a team like yourselves or West Ham, because obviously I think in the long run, there's going to be a progression from both clubs. Obviously, West Ham's at the minute more predominant, but I can't see him getting in there. I think, if anything, Newcastle's got his best shout for it.
Yeah.
And it'll be good for his England opportunities as well.
Yeah, that's it. We've been linked with him for longer with regards to a move. Like, literally, he was probably our first major link, wasn't he, Chris?
Yeah. They reckon it's done, Pete. I mean, I don't know how true that is, but they reckon it's like the worst kept secret that it's done. It's already, it's ready to go. And, we've been in touch with his representatives, and it's just a case of waiting until the January window opens. I don't know how true that is, Dan. But that 7 million figure you mentioned as well, that is what I've seen.
Yeah.
It would make sense. It seems really, really cheap, but if his contract's running out, hey, Hendrick could be part of the deal, Dan. You never know. That could be good.
Sod off. Mate, honestly, I managed to keep expletives out of that when you said that, to be honest. I was close to it.
Well, never say never. 100%. Look,
to be fair, we brought a 30-odd-year-old Aaron Lennon back, so I am a bit worried if he does come back. Put it that way.
Definitely, but yeah, look, it's an interesting one, and like I say, that one's going to run and run. The 7 million that you've said potentially has surprised me. I did kind of earmark maybe like a 15 million. I thought it might be, and it may well be that we pay that, like you've talked about, Dan. You're absolutely right. The inflation's going to be there on Newcastle, being sort of the richest club in the world and having all this money. They're going to add so many millions onto the deal, and I think the consortium are fully expecting of that 100%. But look, we'll move on. I just want to touch quickly on your manager, Sean Dyche. Now, obviously, he's been there a while now. He's done a great job for you guys. Like you said, you're expected to be around where you are right now. Do you think has there been a change this season in the way he's managed the team? Do you think he'll be able to survive you another season? Is there anything to tell you that maybe you're a little bit more concerned this season about how he's sort of, running the team, running the club? You talked about already the like for like subs. Are there things starting to kick in that maybe you're starting to think it might not be it might not be our season this season?
Another bugbear pretty much has come to me, and to be fair, that he's got his favourites, it seems. And you only have to look at, when we signed Ben Gibson and he spat his dummy out because he wasn't getting game time. I mean, at the time, you had Tarkowski and Ben Mee banging form, firing up to a Europa position, and Ben Gibson thinking he can just waltz in there. Like, no chance, mate. You've got to earn your place. You should know that in football. And if your defence is being solid, I'm sorry, but your place firmly on the bench is where it should be. So it's been 9 seasons now that we've had Dash. Can he take us any further than he has done? Potentially. But this is the season where we've started to. If we go down, we go down. But as I say, with the new ownership, they believe in what Dash is doing. He's signed a new 4-year contract. So I can't see us getting rid of him. Even if we did go down, it'd be a case of, he's already been there, done that, took us down and brought us back up. He's not a Daniel Farker. He won't just sort of take you down, bring you up, and just sort of chuck the towel in. Yeah. But he's got the credentials for a decent job. if he ever was to leave us. I could see him doing something like Spurs, to be fair.
Wow.
I think the Spurs job would be a decent shout for him. Everton job, potentially as well.
Would you? I mean, I know you wouldn't, but with all the links with Rafa Benitez at the moment and him potentially being on his last legs. I mean, I think they play Arsenal on Monday, and with the run that they've had, they're actually one of the only clubs that has got a worse form than us at the moment. They are the bottom of the form table with how bad they're playing at the moment. So they've got Arsenal next. I think they've got Chelsea coming up soon. If Rafa Benitez was to get sacked, do you think there's a chance that they might go for someone like Sean Dyche?
I mean, Everton have started throwing money at it. They've thrown money at it since Ronald Koeman, haven't they? And I think they give the wrong manager a bit of money to spend at that point. They sort of thought, oh, Koeman, a real coup. Let's give him some money to spend. And he bought crap like David Klassen for Everton, and it just didn't work at all. I mean, obviously, you guys know about Rafa. He worked wonders with your club for the period that you was going through at the time and everything. That guy's up there with what he's done at the likes of Liverpool for what he's done with Newcastle. But I just think with Dyche that now that he's got that 4-year contract, people won't touch him because it's a case of it'll be a hefty payout because that new deal's on the cards, and not on the cards been signed. So I think he needs to get rid of the deadwood now because our squad is getting very old. I mean, we still need to get rid of Peter Noble and Jimmy McIlroy and stuff like that. That's how that's a joke, by the way. Obviously, they were like players from the 70s.
Who they are.
Yeah, they were like players from the 70s, but that's just me obviously saying just how old our squad is. We're full of 30-odd-year-olds, 30-odd-year-old has-beens and stuff, and we need to get rid of that and promote youth and, be able to look further than the end of our nose. We all know the market now. You can't just go into the Championship and pick a player up for 2 or 3 million and turn them into a 30 million player. They're asking for 30 million after one good season in the Championship, and you're just like, sod off, no chance, I'm not paying that. And that started from the days of Ross McCormack and that stupid deal with Villa. So, it's been constant, that crap now. And the fact that we've got a chairman in that's willing to back him, this is where we're going to see Dyche have a bit of money and be able to actually expand the search for a player instead of just looking basically further than the end of our noses. So, ask me again in another 2 or 3 seasons. And we'll see where we're at. But I think by that point, you'll probably definitely be well on your way to Europa League football. Fingers crossed.
Hopefully,
fingers crossed. That would be a great trajectory for us, and that's exactly where we'd like to be, sort of at that period, or maybe a little bit higher. Certainly not fighting down at the bottom of the league. That's definitely what we want. But I think you've segued nicely for us into the next topic. So obviously we've talked a lot of Burnley, about their season, individual players. Let's talk about Newcastle United, the home team. So, for us, it's been a massive turnaround. We've obviously got new ownership, which everyone's already aware of. We've got a new manager at the helm. Eddie Howe has come in and really sort of took charge of the team, and you know what? He's got players playing. One of which is this man. This man's smiling at the moment, and there's a reason for it. He's playing well. He's performing well. He put a monstrous effort in on Tuesday night against Norwich. A very, very good player, and performing, should I say, and he's showing what type of a player he can be at Newcastle United. Yeah. Just before I ask Chris's opinion, Dan, who are the guys that are gonna make you twitch like this on Saturday afternoon when the game kicks off at 3:00?
I only have to look at last season's game. Again, another game where we were 1-0 up and chucked it away because the game just changed when one man entered that field. Alan Saint-Maximin. That man scares the crap out of me. Honestly, he is an absolute beast. On his day, he will literally run rings around any team, any day of the week. And I'm surprised. I really am surprised he's not had a move to someone not bigger, because that's not, that's probably a bit harsh to say, but had a move to somebody a bit higher up the table. Is probably the better way of putting it. I think he'd fit someone like Arsenal's philosophy. I just think I think obviously you'd need to play to his strengths though. So yeah, him and Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson loves a goal against us, which is quite worrying. So yeah, Saint-Maximin can change a game within a heartbeat, but you've always got, Callum Wilson in there who likes to crop up one or two. But going back to what you said about Joe Linton, the video that you saw of Eddie Howe, proper Joe, I love it, proper at him. And to be fair, after 3 seasons, obviously you want in a return from a player like, Joe Linton, and playing in that number 10 role, it seems to be working for him.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, look, Tuesday, Chris, Joe Linton was playing centre midfield. I remember looking at his starting position, and he was playing right alongside John Joe Shelby. It was a monstrous performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, Joe's been a big improvement, Dan. Joe's really turned a corner since Eddie Howe's come in, and we've been waiting for it for a long time. I mean, as Newcastle fans, he came in as the number 9. He got given the number 9 shirt, which, as you know, was really coveted at Newcastle United. And when he came in and got the shirt, we were all excited, thinking, "Oh, great! They're going to transform into this fantastic striker." We know that his goal record at Hoffenheim wasn't fantastic, but we were thinking, "Oh, the scouts, they've been watching him, they really wanted him." Mike Ashley's forked out 40 million allegedly for him. So we were all expecting big things from him. Anyway, it didn't quite pan out like that. Callum Wilson came in. He ended up getting the number 13 shirt, had that for a season, and then he was given the number 9 shirt, and Joe's been given the number 7 shirt. So it's kind of taken the pressure off him a little bit, and maybe the expectations have been lowered. But I think as Newcastle fans, what we've had to remember is that, if you're getting praise from a manager like Nagelsmann, who's been saying that, we haven't seen the best of Joe, it can only be a good thing. And I think having somebody there like Eddie Howe, who's going to coach players, and do you know what, Pete, I'm going to touch back on what we were saying about Jamal Lewis at the very start. Having a manager there who can coach a player properly and see their strengths and be able to work on them. And I'm sure Eddie Howe has probably spent a lot of time, not just with Joe and Jamal, but probably other players as well, and really try and get the best out of them. So hopefully, Joe will only get better and better. And weirdly, well, I know you're probably going to ask me about the threats and all that, so I won't tell you who for Newcastle, but put it this way, the names on my list this week are a lot different to what they normally are.
And that just shows you the kind of work that Eddie Howe's done. I mean, you've highlighted a couple of players there. I'll throw Ryan Fraser in that as well. Yeah. It tells you a lot. Newcastle fans got on his back a lot, Ryan Fraser, and some of it rightly so, particularly when he got sent off against Sheffield United. But I think it tells you a lot, his attitude since Eddie Howe's come into the building, that he's a change. That I don't know if Chris watched his interview on the Newcastle website just before the Norwich game. Fantastic. Ryan Fraser's interview that he had on the website.
No, I haven't seen it, people. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, definitely go back and watch it. Any fans in the chat, if you've not watched that video, it was in the build up to the Norwich game. It was a fantastic 11-minute interview where he talked passionately about not just Eddie Howe, but about wanting to do well for this club, giving his all. You could see there was just a drastic change in his attitude, and it was very, very clear that the issue was with Steve Bruce and the situation with the management setup. As to why we weren't getting the sort of performances. And I do believe, if it wasn't for Joe, really, really sort of like lighting the torch really and turning things on, that Ryan Fraser would have played more football. It was such a shame.
You could see as well, though, Pete, like Fraser's attitude when he had to come off, after the sending off. He kept his cool and he was like, you know what? I understand. Tactical. I get what you're doing.
He did.
And he kept his head down and he didn't whinge about it. And he just did what he had to do. So fair play to it. It just goes to show the change of attitude he's had since Eddie Howe's come in. It just brings me back to that video that Andy Carroll did. Richie to Bournemouth. Nah, we'll bring Bournemouth to Richie.
I love it. Love it,
Yeah.
Dan. That video does crop up on social media. It's definitely the case. I mean, one of the things Ryan Fraser talked about is his relationship with Eddie Howe, and you know how much respect he has for him, and that he's willing to give his all for the manager. And without naming Steve Bruce, he kind of talked about how things weren't very good before, and he kind of does it in a very tactical way. But you know exactly what Ryan Fraser said in his interview. So really, really good interview. Ryan Fraser, Jamal Lewis, Joe Linton, definitely a vast improvement in them, and hoping for more, 100%. But right, at this point now, it's one of my favourite parts of this show, I've got to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
I
forgot about this, I forgot about it.
Dad, you may not have experienced this, but it is stat time. And when it's stat time, the main man has to get his intro. So, not going to say anymore. Hey, there he is. Statman, how you doing?
I'm absolutely fine. I'm just going to put my headset on. But have been afraid you've caught us off a little bit. You'll hear us a bit better.
No problem at all. Well, look, it's never quite the same without Statman Keith Roll with his stats for all the fixtures in the upcoming games, and I believe you have a number of fixture stats to throw at us about the game on Saturday.
Yes. First of all, good evening to Dan as well. Welcome on the channel, Dan.
Good evening, Keith.
I'm going to try and start a little bit negative, and I'm going to try and build it back up again because it's becoming tougher and tougher, as we know, lads, this season. Newcastle's Premier League record in this fixture is actually quite, it's quite even Stevens. It's slightly more in favour of Newcastle's 4 wins and 4 draws, 2 defeats in 10 Premier League games. Not much in it either on the all time. Like literally, there's only 1 game in it. Like 45 wins and then 44 to Burnley. Now Newcastle have equalled with this last game. They've equalled their record of 14 Premier League matches without a win, which is the worst Premier League record, which was set from April to September 1999, which was the dark days of Ruud Gullit. Sexy football and all. And also going back to the 70s as well, Newcastle are winless in 15 if you include the cup competition there as well with the League Cup, and that's the worst run since 1978. Now I'm going to build it back up again. Burnley haven't won a league game at St James's Park since 1976, April 1976, which was when Supermac was playing for Newcastle. Burnley won 1-0 that day in April 1976. Burnley doing, they're fair, even though they're just out in the bottom 3 there. They've drawn 4 of the last 5 games, so they are in good, quite good form. This is a good stat that I found here about Callum Wilson. 17 Premier League goals for Callum Wilson since the start of last season is more than double than any other Newcastle United player. In the last 2 seasons. Eddie Howe's managerial record versus Burnley. This one surprised me a bit here. And all obviously with Bournemouth, he's managed 10 games. He's won 2. He's drawn 2. And he's lost 6 games against Burnley. So he's got a 0.8 win record against Burnley. And Sean Dyche's managerial record versus Newcastle United, he's managed 11 games. He's won 3, drawn 4, and he's lost 4. So fairly even in there. Maxwell Cornet is Burnley's top goal scorer this season with 5 goals in 10 games. ASM he could become only the third Premier League player to score an assist in 3 successive games against the same club if he scores and assists against Burnley tomorrow. And I think we've touched on here.
Dad don't want that. We definitely do.
Maximum scares me. He scares the crap out of me. He really does.
You know what? I was having a chat with someone on Twitter after the game on Tuesday, and they mentioned about ASM not having a good game against Norwich, and he wasn't himself. He tried to drive us forward, but at the moment he's trying to do too much. He's on the ball at times, and the one thing I said to him is that he's got the perfect game coming up on Saturday because he loves playing against Burnley. He loves it. Your reaction, Dad, to ASM just tells us everything we need to know. And look, ASM, if you're out there, if you're one of those that are watching right now, I hope you're watching Dad's reaction because we want you to go and attack him on Saturday, 100%.
Do you know what, Pete? It's funny you say that because St. Maximin, as we've spoke about him a lot, haven't we? And he's not been himself. You're right. And you just think it's gonna click soon. It's got to click soon because we've seen glimpses. We saw glimpses at Brentford. We saw a tiny glimpse at Norwich, with the odd run here and there. But you just think it is going to click soon, and we all hope that it's going to be on Saturday. Sorry, Dan.
It's all right.
Definitely. Go on, Keith. Sorry, we interrupted there.
Not at all. That was nearly it. I just wanted to round off on this one again, going a little bit flat here. And I'm sure we've heard this already banded about. It certainly was mentioned on the other channel. But the only other Premier League team to have not won a game in the first 14 games, the only other teams, Swindon, 1994, QPR 2013, and Sheffield United 2021. And we know what happened there. All 3 have been relegated. Now, I know records are to be broken, and maybe, but we've got to get it moving here, haven't we, really, to if we want to break that record, because it is obviously looking a bit bleak on that side of things, especially after Tuesday night.
I have to agree. We do need to get going with that. But the stats don't look too bad either side. It's making for a very interesting game on Saturday. And it's going to be really, really interesting. It's going to be really, really interesting because, you made a point, Dan, quite early on in the show where you said, it could be a high-scoring game because both teams are going to go out and attack. Now, it's very clear that Newcastle's stance right now under Eddie Howe is to go and attack the opposition, to have more possession than we have been recently, the 19-20 possession that we've been having under Steve Bruce. We're having more possession on the ball in attacking areas where we're looking to get the ball forward. Very rarely do we pass the ball backwards now. We're looking to be progressive. But you mentioned that your team are likely to go and do the same, and that's not normally something that we associate Burnley with. Is that been a change in tactic this season?
Yeah. We've tried to get the ball on the floor, try and run into the channels, play it out wide instead of just trying to lump a ball forward to the forward two. When you've only got pretty much our last game against Wolves, we dropped back to a 4-4-2 and played Cornet up front with Chris Wood. In my opinion, it didn't work because we tried to play the ball over the top. And when you've got a guy that can run like an headless chicken and then a player that can literally try and take it down, Chris Wood really alienated in that game on Wednesday night. He really was. And that's why Chris Wood and Sean Dash ended up having an argument when he subbed Chris Wood off.
It was quite early on, wasn't it? 59 minutes he got subbed off. Yeah.
And the thing I found funny about the video was Wood came off and he's just like basically fuming, probably saying, last season we were 4-0 up, I had a 34-minute hat-trick against Wolves and now you're taking me off. And Dash literally turned around and said something, and then you see Chris Wood sort of go, oh, okay. And so I just sit back and you're just like, yes, listen to your master, you little crap bag.
I love it.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting because, again, I don't think the aerial threat is probably the best thing that we could do. Set pieces is where we're going to potentially hurt you the most. Yeah. I think, if anything, that's where we're going to be a lot stronger, especially with Westwood back in the side as well. That's going to be key because we missed him on Wednesday night. So I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not looking forward to it. I'll be a lot happier after 90 minutes, depending on the result.
Definitely. And I think it's about that time now where we segue into predictions. So look, we'll start with Chris, work our way down to Dan, and then over to Keith. What are our predictions going into Saturday, knowing how big a game it is for both teams? Chris, I'll start with you. What do you think the score will be come 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon?
I'm going to say 2-0 Newcastle.
Ooh. Any scorers in there?
I'm going to say a brace of Callum Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
I think Callum Wilson's going to fill his boots.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Dan, the opposition's point of view. As the opposition fan, what do you think the scoreline will be come 5 o'clock Saturday?
Fan me says that we need to turn those draws on the road into wins. So I would say Burnley 2-1. Realist me says that you're going to throw everything at this. The missus, the cat, the kitchen sink, annual leave, everything's being thrown at it. And literally, this could be one of those games where Newcastle get the first win and we get absolutely trounced 4-0. But I'm going to have to say, as a Burnley fan, I'm going to go with the fan me. I have to. So I'm going to say 2-1 Burnley, obviously.
No, I respect that 100%. Keith, Dan's not right. We are going to throw everything at it. The kitchen sink. He mentioned the wife as well. My wife's looking at me at the moment. We're not going to throw the wives.
No, we don't condone that.
At the result on Saturday, that's not going to happen. No, it's not going to happen. But yeah, we need this win. We're going to do everything we possibly can. What do you think the score will be come Saturday afternoon?
I really do want to say a win. I really do. But I've said that a couple of times already this season, and it's honestly, I'm Mr. Pessimist and Realistic. I said earlier in one of the shows and in the chat, I said the first win would come against Norwich, and I thought I was going to be right. And I felt even worse on Tuesday night when I was wrong again. It depends which ASM turns up. If ASM's back and in form, if Newcastle can build on the positives on Tuesday night with Joe Linton, for instance, playing in midfield, have we found Joe Linton's best position there? Then, and with Dubravka obviously between the sticks back, then there could be a narrow win there, and that would be good. But I've just Tuesday left is really bad, and I'm going to go draw 1-1. Because I want to be wrong. Because I want to be wrong at come 5 o'clock.
That was straight in. I'll take it. They'll take the point and get out of there.
Any point on the road's always good, though, isn't it? No matter who you are, any point on the road is always good. So I'll take it.
Agree.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You know what? Norwich fans were saying exactly the same. Tuesday night, they, regardless of them being a man up, having more possession, they got that goal late on, and they were quite happy to take that point away at the end. So yeah, I completely understand that. But look, I'm thinking with my head and my heart here. The way we've been playing has actually not been too bad. If we were under Steve Bruce, I would fully expect you guys to win this game. But we're playing progressive, attacking football. We didn't get to see that in full flow on Tuesday because of the sending off. And I fully believe, and me and Chris had this conversation after the games, that I fully believe with 11 men we win that game against Norwich. Although I think Burnley are a better team. I think our record against you at St James's Park in recent years, regardless of whether it's under Bruce or Rafa Benitez before that, has always been good. I think that will continue. I think the players are desperate to get that first win, and barring no massive disasters, I think we'll win. I really do, and I think the fans are really behind us, behind the players at the moment. Coming out in the second half, that first 20 minutes of that second half, I think that's probably the best crowd reaction I've heard at St James's Park since the Sir Bobby Robson days. Like that.
It felt different, didn't it, Pete? It felt different. They were willing the players on, and you could see it was tense. And I mean, I wasn't there, but obviously, I could sense it. It was tense, and you could tell there was a little bit of worry in there. But it was also like, come on, lads, we're all behind you. There was a community there, wasn't there?
Definitely, and Eddie Howe did allude to that 100% in his press conference. And my best mate who came up to Newcastle, well, I met up in Newcastle the other week for the Brentford game. He went to the game on Tuesday, and he said exactly that. He said the atmosphere was unbelievable, like 10 times better than it was at Brentford. And the Brentford game wasn't bad itself. So I do think that'll make a difference. I am going to go for a Newcastle win. I'm going to go for a Newcastle 2-0 win. I do think we'll get the result. It's a long time coming, and hopefully that spurs us on to then pick up some other points too in a very, very tough fixture list in December. So I'm going to go for the 2-0 win, 100%. But we'll see. It'll be a very, very interesting game, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Just to end on that, Yano's put Eddie's already identified Joe Linton's best position, needs to show he's identified Lascelles' best position and leave him on the bench. It's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. He really, if anyone's heard the press conference today, he really did big up Jamal Lascelles and talk positively about how much influence he has and his ability. And the key thing for me is that he said they want to take him to new heights in his performance levels, so that they're willing to work with him and get the best out of him. And you know what? If they're willing to do that with Joe Linton, with how bad Joe Linton's been in the last 3 years, and if they're willing to do the same with Lascelles, then fair enough, because I've got the 100% the trust of the manager and his backroom staff at the moment. So we'll see. Dan, I'm sorry. Dan early on in the chat said he thought Burnley were going to turn us over. I've got to be positive. If you're thinking we're going to get turned over, Dan, I've got to come on. You're killing me here. I've got to be positive. But look, we'll leave it there because we are on a double whammy this week. And Chris Waff from The Athletic, Newcastle journalist, is going to be coming on shortly, so we need to switch over for that. But I have to say, Dan, absolute pleasure having you on.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Just plug your Twitter handle and your channel quickly before we finish.
Yeah, so it's at Moorhouse TV. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you think this face is better for radio, then we are doing podcasts as well. So we're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify.
They're absolutely spot on. And there's been a couple of guys that have mentioned that you look very much like our NUFC board member, Greg Tomlinson.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing?
Absolutely. You look identical to me. To be fair, you do. But yeah. So
I was thinking more of Ed Sheeran. No?
Or Ed Sheeran.
I've had Ed Sheeran. I've had Seth Rogen.
Yeah.
That's another one I've had.
Definitely.
I once got called Boris Becker when I was younger.
You know what? Yeah.
I was like, really?
Yeah, I can see it. Definitely. 100%.
I'm a tribute act. I'm Ed Sheeran.
Love it. But Dan, it's been a pleasure.
No, thanks for having me, guys. Thank you very much.
No problem. And hopefully we can talk again in May. We're the last game of the
Definitely.
season. So we'll get on the return.
Definitely. Yeah, I'll be there. If any of you travelling down, let me know. I'm happily good enough to meet up with anybody for a pint. Just not any ex-partners. Said that. None of that crap.
Hey Dan, hopefully we're both safe by then, because it's the last game of the season, isn't it? So hopefully it's not.
We're both safe, or we're both off to the championship. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
Great way to finish it. Thank you, man. Keith, absolute pleasure as always, and cheers. Chris, the main man, always great to share the show with you. And everyone else in the chat, as always, great points, great comments, and we'll look forward to the game, right? Those that are in the chat, now switch over to Loaded Mag, our flagship show, where we have Chris Waff that's going to join us very shortly. But until then, we'll see you next week. And as always, we do love playing away. You guys take care. it.